Athletics. Athletics, or commonly known as track and field, includes running, jumping, and throwing events. Key events include sprint, middle distance, and long distance races, relays, hurdles, a multitude of field events, and the decathlon for men and heptathlon for women. Athletes compete for medals based on their performance, with events held in a stadium setting. It has been a core part of the Olympic Games since their modern inception in 1896. Swimming. Swimming is a prominent Olympic sport featuring various disciplines including freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, and individual medley across different distances. Athletes compete in both individual and relay events, racing in pools and aiming for the fastest times. Swimming has been part of the Olympic Games since their inception in 1896 for men and 1912 for women. Basketball. Basketball in the Olympics features men's and women's teams competing in a tournament format. Each game consists of 4 quarters with teams aiming to score points by shooting a ball through the other opponent's hoop. Basketball was introduced as an Olympic sport in 1936 and the women's event followed in 1976. Basketball 3v3. Basketball 3v3 in the Olympics features teams of 3 players competing on half of a court with 1 hoop. Matches consist of a single 10-minute game and the first team to reach 21 points or whoever is leading at the end of regulation wins. Teams score points by shooting from inside or outside the 3-point line with different values assigned to each. It was introduced in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Skateboarding. Skateboarding also made its Olympic debut in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics featuring 2 main disciplines, street and park. In street, athletes navigate an urban-inspired course with obstacles like rails and stairs, while park involves performing tricks in a bowl-shaped structure. Competitors are judged based on creativity, difficulty, and execution of their tricks. Archery. Archery in the Olympics features individual and team events where competitors shoot arrows at a target from a set distance. The Olympic format includes recurve bows with archers aiming at its target set at 70 meters. Scoring is based on the proximity of arrows to the target's center, with points awarded for different scoring zones. The sport was included in 1900 with a modern revival in 1972. Boxing. Boxing in the Olympics features male and female athletes competing in weight classes, aiming to score points by landing clean punches on their opponents while avoiding hits. Matches consist of 3 rounds and judges score each round based on technique, control, and effective punching. The sport has been part of the Olympic Games since 688 BC in ancient times and was reintroduced into the modern Olympics in 1904 for men, with women's boxing added in 2012. Sailing. Sailing is an Olympic sport that involves racing sailboats in various classes, each with different designs and requirements. Competitors navigate courses on water, with races typically lasting from a few hours to several days, depending on the class and conditions. Sailing has been part of the Olympics since 1900, featuring events for both men and women. The sport emphasizes skill in handling the boat while simultaneously understanding wind and water conditions. Weightlifting. Weightlifting is an Olympic sport where athletes compete in 2 main events, the snatch and the clean and jerk. In the snatch, lifters lift the barbell from the ground to overhead in one motion, while the clean and jerk involves lifting the barbell to the shoulders and then overhead. Competitors are categorized by weight classes, and the combined total of their best lifts determines their ranking. Weightlifting has been part of the Olympic Games since 1896. Cycling. The Olympics has 5 separate cycling events, so I'll try to go quick. Cycling BMX Freestyle. Cycling BMX Freestyle is an Olympic sport where athletes perform tricks and stunts on BMX bikes in a designated park or street course. The event features 2 main formats: park, where riders navigate ramps and obstacles, and street, which focuses on urban-inspired features like rails and stairs. It was first introduced in the 2020 Tokyo Games. Cycling BMX Racing. Cycling BMX Racing is an Olympic sport that involves high-speed racing on a short, multi-lap track with jumps, berms, and turns. Athletes compete in heats, with the fastest riders advancing to the semifinals and finals. Races typically feature 4 to 8 riders, and the objective is to cross the finish line first. BMX Racing made its Olympic debut at the 2008 Beijing Games and has since become popular for its thrilling action and dynamic competition. Cycling mountain bike. Cycling mountain bike is an Olympic event where athletes race on off-road trails featuring a mix of technical sections, steep climbs, and descents. The competition consists of cross-country races where riders complete multiple laps on a rugged course. Each rider is timed, and the fastest to finish wins. Mountain biking was introduced to the Olympics at the 1996 Atlanta Games, highlighting endurance, technical skill, and the ability to navigate diverse terrains. Cycling road. Cycling road is an Olympic event featuring races on paved roads, emphasizing endurance and strategy. The competition includes events such as the road race, which cyclists compete over a long distance, and the time trial, where they race against the clock over a set course. Road cycling has been part of the Olympics since 1896. Cycling track. Cycling track is an Olympic event that takes place on a specially designed velodrome. Athletes compete in various disciplines including sprint, team sprint, keirin, and points race, among others. Events can be either individual or team-based with races focusing on speed, endurance, and strategy. Track cycling has been part of the Olympics since 1896 for men and 1988 for women. Football. Football, commonly known as soccer in some regions such as the United States, is an Olympic sport that features men's and women's competitions. Teams compete in a knockout format culminating in a final to determine the champion. The Olympic football tournament showcases national teams, often including under 23 players and a few senior players allowed. Football has been part of the modern Olympic Games since 1900 for men and 1996 for women. Volleyball. Volleyball is an Olympic sport that features two main formats, indoor volleyball and beach volleyball. Indoor volleyball involves two teams of 6 players each competing to score points by hitting a ball over a net and into the opposing team's court. Matches are played in sets, typically best of 5. Beach volleyball consists of two-player teams competing on sand courts, also aiming to score points by landing the ball into the opponent's area. These matches are usually played in a best of 3 format. Indoor volleyball has been part of the Olympics since 1964 and beach volleyball since 1996. Equestrian. Equestrian in the Olympics involves horseback riding in 3 main events, which are dressage, which involves a horse and a rider performing a series of predetermined movements showcasing the horse's training, responsiveness, and grace. Jumping, which consists of navigating a course of jumps within a set time, with penalties for knockdown obstacles or exceeding the time limit. And lastly, eventing, which combines dressage, cross-country, which is long-distance jumping over natural obstacles, and show jumping into a single competition, testing versatility and endurance. Equestrian events have been part of the Olympics since 1912. Golf. Golf made its return to the Olympics at the 2016 Rio Games after a long absence since 1904. The Olympic golf tournament features both men's and women's individual events where players compete over 4 rounds to achieve the lowest score. Golf in the Olympics emphasizes skill, precision, and strategy. Karate. Karate made its Olympic debut at the 2020 Tokyo Games featuring 2 main events, kumite, sparring, and kata, forms. In kumite, athletes compete in controlled matches, scoring points for controlled strikes and techniques. In kata, competitors perform a series of prearranged movements demonstrating precision, balance, and technique judged on form and execution. Gymnastics. There are 2 main types of gymnastics. The first is rhythmic gymnastics. Rhythmic gymnastics is an Olympic sport that combines elements of ballet, dance, and gymnastics, performed with apparatuses such as ribbons, hoops, balls, clubs, and ropes. Athletes compete individually or in groups, showcasing their grace, flexibility, and coordination through choreographed routines set to music. Rhythmic gymnastics was introduced to the Olympics in 1984 for individuals and in 1996 for groups. Judges score performances based on technical execution, artistic expression, and overall presentation. The other form of gymnastics is artistic gymnastics. Artistic gymnastics in the Olympics features male and female athletes performing routines on various apparatuses. Men compete in 6 events: floor exercise, pommel horse, still rings, vault, parallel bars, and horizontal bar, while women compete on 4: vault, uneven bars, balance beam, and floor exercises. Gymnasts are judged on difficulty, execution, and artistry, with scores determining rankings. The sport has been part of the Olympics since their modern inception in 1896 and women's events added in 1928. Hey guys, my name's Aaron. I'm the voice behind the video you're watching right now, and I'm actually editing it right now. And I've put at least 10 hours into it so far, and I probably have 10 more to go. So I'm just going to quickly ask if you could like the video, subscribe, and share the video with someone you think might enjoy it. Thank you. Artistic swimming. Artistic swimming, formerly known as synchronized swimming, is an Olympic sport where teams perform choreographed routines in the water, combining elements of dancing and swimming. Events include solo, duet, and team competitions where athletes are judged on their artistic impression, technical skills, and synchronization. Routines are performed to music. Artistic swimming was introduced in the Olympics in 1984. Badminton. Badminton in the Olympics features singles and doubles competitions for both men and women. Players use rackets to hit a shuttlecock over a net, aiming to score points by landing the shuttlecock in the opponent's court. Badminton was introduced as an Olympic sport in 1992. Canoe. There are 2 main types of canoe sports in the Olympics, the first being Canoe Slalom. Canoe Slalom is an Olympic sport where athletes navigate a kayak or canoe through a course of hanging gates on a river or artificial whitewater course. The goal is to pass through gates in the correct order and direction while completing the course as quickly as possible. Gates can be upstream or downstream, and penalties are incurred for missed gates or incorrect passes. Canoe Slalom was introduced in the Olympics in 1972 and features events for both men and women in individual and team formats. The second canoe sport is Canoe Sprint. Canoe Sprint is an Olympic racing sport where athletes paddle a kayak or canoe over a straight course on flat water. Competitors race over distances typically 200, 500, or 1,000 meters, aiming for the fastest time. Events are held for both individual and team boats, with separate categories for men and women. Canoe Sprint has been part of the Olympics since 1936. Rowing. Rowing is an Olympic sport where athletes race in boats on water, competing in various categories, including groups of singles, doubles, fours, and eights. The race can be held on lakes or rivers over standard distances, typically 2,000 meters. It has been part of the Olympic Games since 1900 for men and 1976 for women. Baseball and softball. Baseball and softball are team sports included in the Olympics featuring a bat and ball format. Softball consists of women's teams, while baseball features men's teams. Each game involves two teams taking turns batting and fielding, aiming to score runs by hitting the ball and running around bases. Baseball was first included in the Olympics in 1992 and softball in 1996, although both sports were removed after 2008 and returned for the 2020 Tokyo Games. Handball. Handball is a team sport played between two teams of 7 players each, including a goalkeeper. The objective is to score by throwing a ball into the opposing team's goal. Matches are played on an indoor court, typically in 2 30-minute halves. It became an official Olympic sport in 1972 for men and 1976 for women. Breaking. Breaking, also known as breakdancing, is a competitive dance style that originated in the 1970s and involves dynamic movements, acrobatics, and artistic expression. Breaking will be introduced as an official sport for this year's 2024 Paris Olympic Games, and competitors will showcase their skill in battles where they face off in front of judges who score them based on creativity, technique, and performance. Diving. Diving is an Olympic sport where athletes perform acrobatic jumps and flips from platforms or springboards into a swimming pool. Competitors are judged based on their technique, execution, and degree of difficulty, with scores awarded for each dive. Events include individual and synchronized diving from various heights, but are typically 3 meters and 10 meters. Diving has been part of the Olympics since 1904. Marathon swimming. Marathon swimming is an Olympic open water swimming event where athletes compete in long distance races, typically covering 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles, in open water. The competition tests swimmers' endurance, strategy, and ability to navigate variable conditions like waves and currents. Marathon swimming made its Olympic debut at the 2008 Beijing Olympics with both men's and women's events. Swimmers race in a mass start format, aiming to complete the distance in the fastest time. Triathlon. Triathlon is an Olympic sport that combines swimming, cycling, and running, all raced consecutively. Athletes typically compete in a standard distance format, consisting of a 1.5 kilometer swim, a 40 kilometer bike ride, and a 10 kilometer run. The triathlon made its Olympic debut in the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games, and it has since included men's and women's individual races, as well as mixed relay events emphasizing teamwork and strategic racing. Fencing. Fencing is an Olympic sport that involves 3 disciplines: foil, épée, and saber. Each weapon has its own rules and target areas. Competitors score points by landing hits on their opponents, and bouts are held in a series of matches. Fencing combines physical agility, strategy, and quick reflexes. It has been part of the modern Olympic Games since 1896 for men and 1924 for women, with both individual and team events. Modern pentathlon. Modern pentathlon is an Olympic sport that consists of 5 events: fencing, swimming, equestrian show jumping, and a combined event of pistol shooting and cross-country running. The sport was introduced to the Olympics in 1912 and is designed to simulate the challenges faced by a 19th century soldier. Competitors accumulated points based on their performance, and the overall winner is determined by their total score across all events. Field hockey. Field hockey is an Olympic team sport in which 2 teams of 11 players compete to score goals by hitting a ball into the opposing team's net using curved sticks. Matches are played on a rectangular grass or artificial turf field, typically consisting of 2 35-minute halves. Field hockey has been part of the Olympic Games since 1908 for men and 1980 for women. Judo. Judo is a martial art and Olympic sport that focuses on throws, pins, and submission holds. Matches are won by throwing the opponent to the ground, pinning them for a set duration, or forcing a submission. Judo was introduced to the Olympics in 1964 for men and 1992 for women. It emphasizes technique, balance, and strategy. Rugby Sevens. Rugby Sevens is an Olympic sport that features teams of 7 players competing in fast-paced matches, each lasting 7 minutes per half. It is a condensed version of traditional rugby, emphasizing speed, agility, and teamwork. Rugby Sevens made its Olympic debut in the 2016 Rio Games, with both men's and women's tournaments. Surfing. Surfing made its Olympic debut at the 2020 Tokyo Games. The competition takes place in ocean waves, where athletes are judged on their performance, including the quality and difficulty of their maneuvers. Surfers compete in heats with the goal of riding the best waves and showcasing their skills. The event emphasizes athleticism, creativity, and the ability to adapt to changing conditions. Taekwondo. Taekwondo is an Olympic martial art that focuses on high, fast kicks and dynamic footwork. It features both sparring and forms competitions. In sparring, athletes compete in weight categories, earning points by landing controlled strikes on their opponent's body or head. Taekwondo was introduced to the Olympics as a demonstration sport in 1988 and became an official medal sport in 2000. Shooting. Shooting is an Olympic sport that involves precision marksmanship across various disciplines, including rifle, pistol, and shotgun events. Competitors aim at stationary or moving targets from different distances and position. Events can vary in format, including individual and team competitions, and focus on accuracy, speed, and control. Shooting has been part of the Olympic Games since 1896, with both men's and women's events showcasing skill and concentration in a highly competitive environment. Sport climbing. Sport climbing made its Olympic debut at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and consists of 3 disciplines: speed climbing, bouldering, and lead climbing. In speed climbing, athletes race up a standardized wall for the fastest time. Bouldering involves climbing shorter walls without ropes, focusing on power moves and problem solving. Lead climbing requires competitors to climb higher walls while securing themselves with a rope, aiming to reach the highest point possible. Athletes compete for combined scores across all 3 disciplines. Tennis. Tennis is an Olympic sport that features competitions for both singles and doubles, and for both men and women. Players compete on hard, clay, or grass courts, aiming to win matches by scoring points through rallies. Tennis made its Olympic debut in 1896 but was removed after 1924, returning as a full medal sport in 1988. Table tennis. Table tennis is an Olympic sport where players compete as singles or doubles in matches using small paddles to hit a lightweight ball back and forth across a net on a table. The game emphasizes speed, precision, and quick reflexes. Table tennis became an Olympic sport in 1988. Matches are played in a best-of-5 or best-of-7 format, with players scoring points by making their opponent fail to return the ball. The sport has gained global popularity, particularly in countries like China, where it is a major competitive discipline. Trampoline. Trampoline is an Olympic sport where athletes perform acrobatic routines on a trampoline, executing a series of flips and twists in midair. Competitors are judged based on the difficulty, execution, and overall performance of their routines. Trampoline made its Olympic debut at the Sydney Games in the year 2000. Athletes perform 2 routines, one compulsory and one voluntary, over a set time, with scores combining for a total. Water polo. Water polo is an Olympic team sport played in a pool, where 2 teams, each with 7 players, compete to score goals by throwing a ball into the opposing team's net. The game consists of 4 quarters, and teams use swimming, passing, and strategic positioning to gain an advantage. Water polo has been part of the Olympics since the year 1900 for men and 2000 for women. Wrestling. Wrestling is an Olympic sport that features 2 main styles, freestyle and Greco-Roman. In freestyle wrestling, competitors can use their legs and hold their opponent's body in various ways. In Greco-Roman wrestling, only upper body holds are allowed, and athletes cannot use their legs to trip or tackle. Matches are contested on a mat, and wrestlers aim to score points by controlling their opponent, executing takedowns, and pinning them to the mat. Wrestling has been part of the Olympics since ancient times, with its modern form included since 1896. Now for a couple of honorable mentions. Flag football. Flag football is not yet an official Olympic sport, but is set to debut in the 2028 Los Angeles Olympic Games. It is a non-contact version of American football where, instead of tackling, players remove flags from opponents' belts to stop the play. The sport emphasizes teamwork, strategy, and speed, with 2 teams competing to score points by advancing the ball into the opposing team's end zone. Squash. Squash, or sometimes referred to as racquetball, has not yet been included as an Olympic sport despite its popularity and a strong international following. The sport involves 2 players, or 4 players, hitting a small rubber ball against a 4-walled court, aiming to outmaneuver their opponent. Squash has been proposed for Olympic inclusion multiple times and is governed by the World Squash Federation, which continues to promote its growth globally. Lacrosse. Lacrosse is a team sport played with a stick and a small ball where players use the stick to catch, carry, and pass the ball to score goals. It has a rich history, particularly among indigenous people in North America. However, in the context of the Olympics, lacrosse has a complicated history. It was included as a demonstration sport in the 1904 and 1908 Games and has not been part of the official Olympic program since then. Efforts have been made to reintegrate lacrosse into the Olympics, but as of now it remains an unrecognized sport in the Olympic lineup. Organizations like World Lacrosse continue to advocate for its inclusion in future games. Hey guys, it's Aaron again. I guess it was me the whole time though. Anyway, thank you for watching all the way to the end. That means so much. If you could you please like the video, subscribe, share the video with someone you think would enjoy it, and hit the notification bell. I'd very much appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.